So here we are again, another snowstorm in North Carolina. Fortunately, we don't get these too often, and I am grateful that we have a Jeep this year to get back and forth to the farm. So we're heading out right after the fresh snow. We're gonna see what the animals are up to and what we find at the farm this morning. Coda, what do you have to say, girl?
What do you think, Codes? Where are we going, Codes?
We gotta go take care of the bunnies and the kitties, all the horses.
Hey, Code.
What do you say about this?
Well, it's an adventure. We're doing it together. Me and you and Code on the Jeep.
So the roads aren't too slick right now. We have a lot of sleet down on top of that snow, but the Jeep's handling it beautifully. I don't really have any concerns about us getting to the farm safe and sound. Okay, so here we are at the farm. We're pulling into the gate now. We've got quite a bit to do this morning. We want to make sure the horses are all fed, hayed, and watered. Also going to be checking to see if anybody's been injured or too cold, or if anybody's showing any signs of colic. Also, with the ice and the trees, we will be looking for down trees or any other damage to the fence. So we've got a lot to do. Here we go. Our food ready for this morning. Some of our horses that need to put on weight are going to get some beef pulp. Looks very, very dry right now, so we're going to make sure we soak that with some hot water. Good news, it looks like the power and the water well is on, which always makes things a little easier in the winter. So as this soaks up the water, it's going to actually expand. So it's actually going to give the horses not only food and fiber, but it's going to give them some hydration as well. Alright, so on top of that, some other food we're going to add to it. These pellets have the vitamins and minerals that we're going to need. And then as promised, we're going to get electrolytes that look like this and taste average. So I'm going to mix that in just so he doesn't have a chance to slosh it out. So this is for our oldest horse, Doc. He's 33 this year and barely can eat any hay. So he gets a lot of food like this multiple times a day. We have another older horse here on site, our rescue horse this year. Coda, is that good? Coda likes to help feed. She also likes the cat feature. It's the same thing with Aramis. Aramis is a little more picky, so I can't overdo it on the beet pulp. I have to just slide just enough in so he doesn't mind. But he does not mind eating pellets, so. I'm going to also put some electrolytes in for him. And he gets some turmeric in there. I like to use that for horses that are dealing with some arthritis or inflammation. He is still needing additional calories, so he gets oil with his food as well. And a dose of omega-3s. I like using the Horshine brand. And I'm going to just mix that up so he can't blow the powder out and ignore the good stuff. his beet pulp is going to continue to expand and soak. So those are 2 of them. We've got 3 more horses that feed or eat in the morning. We have one that doesn't really need to eat, but her friends like to eat and need to eat. So I give her a little bit just so she thinks she's actually eating. She doesn't feel so left out. We have another big draft that we are having a hard time keeping weight on without the grass. So she's going to get the beet pulp too. Fortunately, this mare doesn't mind eating anything, so I don't have to sneak stuff for her. I'm going to get some grain out. Coda, what do you think? I like this pellet's got a lot of fat already built into it, but she also needs additional calories, and nothing like oil to add that in there. All right, and then Magic is also going to get some electrolytes with hers. Naya's will get some tonight, so I'm not too worried about her. Mix that in. And then we have one more mare, Cookie, who's going to eat this morning. She's on a texture feed. She is also an older mare that we use for our programs. She cannot handle the potassium in electrolytes, so she's not going to get any typical electrolytes, but I do have a salt mix for her that doesn't have that in there, so I'm going to sprinkle that in there just to make sure she has something to encourage her to drink as well. She has a history of some mild and patchy colic, so when the weather changes like this, we just want to make sure that we're ready for her. Alright, so we've got what we need here. We're going to load up in the mule and get the goat food and the rabbit food, and I'll see you out in the pastures. I'm going to grab some halters here in case we've got some horses that are cold this morning. We'll need to bring those in and put them in a stall. As you can see right now, we've got mostly sleet and freezing rain. There's our pond down there. It hasn't totally frozen over yet. It's got ice around the edges. Here's some of our older guys. Out here, they heard the cart, so they know what time it is. Aramis looks beautiful with his snow blanket on. And the dogs are down there too. They know what time it is. So it looks like they've come out of their houses. The minis here have come out of their shed. We'll get to them in a minute. We're gonna start with our older guys first. They eat a lot of food and it takes them the longest to eat, so we're gonna take them down in their sheds. So we have Aramis is our black Frisian here, one of the older guys. He's got a nice icicle under his jaw. I'll have to check him out and make sure he is not cold and shivering. He looks to be doing okay. We have Doc, our old guy here, eagerly waiting. Looks like he's been making snow angels. And Howie the donkey is over there hiding as well. The donkeys are not quite as waterproof, so we're definitely going to check and make sure that he is doing okay. So I'm going to go ahead and separate our paddocks up here, so there's no fighting over food. Come on, Aramis. There we go. All right. No, Aramis, you can't come in this side. Over there. All right. So now we've got the donkey out. Doc is in. Aramis is in. We make sure they stay roped off so they can't fight. and steal food. So I'm just doing a check over with him real quick. He's got a nice crusty ice layer on him. His top line seems to be wet, but underneath here is pretty dry. He's not shivering. I'm going to check on him after he eats to see how cold he is.
The red one?
Yep. So I like the horses to be able to stay outside in their sheds if possible. That way they can just self-regulate if they need to move around. If they're stuck in a 12 by 12 stall, there's obviously not a lot of motion they can do. And see Doc's pretty enthusiastic about his food here. Because Aramis has a long Frisian coat, I'm loving the long icicles there. It's amazing how their top line is pretty resilient in the cold or even in the snow. The problem comes when they get wet, their undercoat gets wet, then they can get chilled. And not only that, but these older guys are going to wind up burning a lot more calories, which is not something that we want them to have to do. So again, I'm just going to make a judgment call after they eat. These two may wind up coming up at least for a few hours today to have a chance to get drier. See the dog, see Stetson way out there. He's happy to be moving around this morning. Doesn't seem to care. There's his brother Maverick. I'm sure they're disappointed there's no geese or ducks out this morning. We got the two miniature horses here, Hope and Max. Max has got a nice set of icicles on him too. These guys have plenty of weight and such dense fur. I'm not thinking they're actually ever going to get cold. They have a shed where they will be eating their hay, so they'll get out of the weather. But you can see most of them is dry except for their top line. They're not shivering. They look very bright-eyed and eager to eat. I love Max's little whiskers that have snow on them. It's a nice look for you, man. Hey, Stetson, or Maverick. Hey, guys. What's up? Were you cold last night? You were? What did you do? Did you keep the coyotes away? Oh my goodness, is it breakfast time already? Yeah? Okay, let's get your food. Dump that out. They're going to get some dry kibble along with some canned food this morning. Make sure they get enough moisture as well.
Good. Good.
All right. Let me check their houses. They should still have straw in there from last night. And they do. So I had a stick over here earlier that was meant for busting the ice. But knowing their lab behavior, they've already carried it off. So we'll break it with the brush. Fortunately, it wasn't too frozen yet. I'm sure tomorrow morning will be a different story. All right, so let's see who else is awake this morning. We have two rabbits over here. Mr. Pickles, who's already hopped up in his hutch. His water is clean and it's not frozen. And we have Mr. Snow Globe. His water's clean, not frozen. He was all buried in his hutch. For our older guy this morning who needs a few more carbs, I'm going to give him some Cheerios, fan favorite here at the farm. So let's see. We have a really, really, really old rabbit that lives in here. Hi, say good morning. And he looks for his Cheerios every morning. This is Butterscotch. He's about 13 years old. Unfortunately, his buddy passed away this past year. So he's still with us. We're glad he's one of our favorite field trip and birthday party rabbits because he's so gentle. He's just a mixed Rex breed, but he's been very, very kind to all the visitors here at the ranch. So this water has a little more ice on it, a little more wind through here. So I'm gonna bust that for him. And then we have another rabbit here. His name is Fox because he looks like a fox. He must be in his hutch like a smart rabbit. Hi, Fox. Oh, you can see we woke him up. He's hiding behind there. Come here, Foxy. He's not sure he's ready to get up yet. Come here, I got your Cheerios. What I want to look for is I want to make sure that they're active, they're dry, they're not shivering. He's shedding, but they're bright-eyed and they look active. And so that tells me that they're probably hydrated. This is the time of the day where most of them are sleeping anyway. So I'm fine with him wanting to stay in his hutch. I'm gonna bust his water. No, Dakota, that's not for you. Come on out. We also have some chickens we're gonna check on. I'm not exactly sure where they are this morning. They might be hiding out in the coop. There's a few in there. Smart girls. So I'm gonna go get their food and put that in there because they're probably pretty hungry this morning. We're gonna go check on our goats this morning. They are not fans of wet weather at all. I'm hoping that they're just in their house. Come on, Coda. You can come. Coda's been chased by the goats before, so she's a little worried about it. Oh, did you see that? Well, good morning, guys. Moses is showing his teeth. So we got Moses in the front. His mother, Daisy, is in the back. They have a warm bed of straw. So they're dry. They're out of the weather. We'll put some hay in there for them to eat as well so they don't have to come out much. Hello, Moses. You're a bedhead. So knowing them, they're not going to get out a whole lot today. But you can tell they're perfectly happy and content staying warm with each other. So I'm going to grab some hay for them, check their water, and then we'll go look at the other horses. So I have some hay here for the goats. Hay is very different than the straw. The straw actually has pretty much zero nutrition for them. So although it may fill their belly, it's not going to give them the minerals and the vitamins and other things that they need. But the good thing about straw is it's hollow and it traps air. So this is a very warm bed for them. This is the hay. It's got the seeds in it, like this. This is where a lot of fat and nutrition is in the hay. So this is what they need to eat, but this really doesn't retain heat. So don't use hay to keep your animals warm, and don't feed straw thinking that that's gonna give the nutrition. They need both, and you need to know what purpose that you're using it for. So I'm just gonna put this in the back where it stays dry. And they'll be set for the day. All right, so we have a couple of other horses out here. This is Naya with the white stripe on her face. She looks pretty dry. She must have spent the night in the shed. Magic is our large draft paint. She looks a little wetter, so it wouldn't surprise me if she's been out exploring, roaming around a little bit. You can see they're feeling the frisky of the air, and they're ready for their breakfast. So I'm waiting to see which of these horses look wet and cold. Magic has kind of got her butt tucked up under her a little bit. Her little back muscles are quivering. So she's one that's going to come in and stay for a little while this morning to get warm. Cookie's our other mare over there. I'm going to have to watch her back end as well. But we're going to let them eat breakfast out here. This is where they stayed overnight. So you can see they've had plenty of opportunity to stay dry. Magic's having a lot to say, like quit talking and let's do breakfast. So let me get through here and get them settled. So we got a lot of horsepower. I'm trying to come up through here, so I'm just going to have to watch myself, watch the footing as well. I don't want to get trampled. Getting these horses where they need to go. So let's take Magic down here. This is where she's always supposed to eat, but somehow magically she's always forgetting about it, where she goes. We haven't figured that out yet. So we're gonna get her. We're gonna let her go in there and eat. I'm gonna come back up here so I can get their buckets. Hello, Naya, I'm coming in, babe. You can see this is a perfect example of a horse shivering. So she is chilled. She's gonna have to become brought inside. Horses can handle extreme colds. They're not gonna handle getting wet and cold. So that's not a big surprise to me. That's what we're dealing with this morning. So we're gonna get them taken care of here as soon as possible. She's got a bucket full of snow. So I'm gonna dip that first. So if you notice your horse shivering, again, there's nothing technically wrong with them. That's nature's way of warming them up. But it is an indicator that you may have to step in and do something to help give them a little more protection. Otherwise, they're going to be burning a lot of calories, shivering and trying to stay warm. The wind is pretty bad out here this morning. You can see her leg is trembling there, and she's a big, heavy, freezing draft cross. So if she's shivering and cold, it's cold out here this morning, guys. So this mare Magic has a lot to eat. We're gonna give her about 5 minutes to get that down, and then we're gonna bring them inside. So here's some of our other mares at a gelding we have out here. This is Raina. She's another Frisian cross. You can see her back legs are tucked, and her abs are tucked a bit. She's shaking a bit. She's a little chilled. She's not as chilled as the other ones. We have 2 halflingers here who have a nice set of icicles on their back. They have an amazing coat, and they've also been on the round bell all night. Let me see if I can get Duke over here. So when they eat hay, that actually helps generate warmth and keeps them warm. So since they've been on a round bell, they are probably a lot warmer than the other horses that we just fed. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this black one here. She was showing some minor signs of being chilled, although she's one that rarely gets cold. So I'll do another check on her and make a decision whether she comes up for a few hours today or if she just needs to spend some time in her shed and maybe not eating 24/7. That's cute. So we joke that this is our diet pasture. They don't get grain except once a day because these horses are fairly easy keepers. They do need hay, obviously AM and PM, water, and shelter. I'm going to zoom in on where they should have spent the night. They've got a shed down there with a round bale. So again, eating hay equals warmth. So if they were smart, they stayed under there and ate. I love how Gracie's got an icicle in her mane. Luna, looking good girl. So I'm again watching for signs of shivering and cold. So I'm just gonna watch. I wanna make sure that everybody's looking active and healthy. And I'm just looking for tails that are tucked really tight, back legs camped under. I like how Gracie's standing there with her legs relaxed, just kind of shaking it off. She's like, what's the big deal? And why did we come out of the shed just to get wet again? Rocket, our red mare, is one that I usually have to watch. She doesn't have a stick of a coat, so she can get cold. She's not as wet today. At least she's thinking about eating, which is good. I'm just looking at Luna. Although her tail is down, it's not really tucked. Gracie heard the food bowl, so she's all about that right now. That was worth coming out of the shed for. So we've got one other little horse down here, Asia. She must be shy today. Asia has quite the coat on her. Her breed is not really meant for cold weather though. She's a hot weather bred horse, and so she's one that can get chilled if she gets too wet. actually love to see the snow on their back like that. It's a sign that they're pretty well insulated. Gracie's got a little snow line right here on her. So that undercoat is actually acting as a really good insulator on Asia's rear end right now. If they're just completely soaked all the way through their undercoat, that's where they can get pretty miserable and they'll have to start shivering or moving around or doing something to stay warm. So I'm actually pretty happy with the way these mirrors are looking. They just have some slush in their water, but nothing too bad. Luna, I love your icy whiskers there. That's really nice. So we'll be back in about 6 hours and we're going to reevaluate this pasture to make sure they're still okay. Again, they have plenty of room down in their shed that they can lay down, they can eat, and as long as they keep food in their engine digesting, fermenting, that's going to create heat and help keep them warm. They have plenty of room to move around, so movement and water is going to discourage colic. Being up in a stall can create stress for horses that are not used to being up. So again, I don't want to bring them up and cause a problem if there's really not a problem to start with. So you guys look good. I'm gonna have to go get my old men in and 3 mares. We'll get them put in stalls and I'll show you how we do it. We have covered arenas out here at the ranch. When it gets this icy, we have quite a snow ice load on that roof, and that's just not something I am comfortable putting horses in that space. Although the roofs have been braced, you know, the gutter's already taken a hit and leaning because of the weight on that, and it's just too risky. You hear too many horror stories about roofs collapsing on horses under the snow load. So unfortunately, although those are great for riding in and being in, putting horses in during the rain, once it gets heavy, icy snow like that, just not comfortable with that. So we'll go inside and look at the stalls and get those ready. We are inside the barn. We're going to get the stalls ready. It's easier to get the stalls ready before you bring the horses in. So that she has a nice dry place in this large 12 by 16 stall. There's ventilation with the window there. We're going to make sure that the buckets are filled with water. They'll have some hay put in here. If it's too drafty, we may go ahead and close that. But ventilation is a horse's friend. And I'm thinking I might just leave that open, because if she wants to get out of the wind, she's got this corner with plenty of space over here. So we have shavings that are down on the floor. Number one, that's for cushion if we want them to sleep. For some of the older horses, we bed those more deeply so they feel more comfortable laying down. It also absorbs the urine and the manure that they make. Fortunately, we do have rubber mats under here, so it makes the stall cleaning a whole lot easier. But we're going to go ahead and add a few shavings to this stall. We're going to make sure all the buckets have water. There's hay put in, so all we have to do is bring these horses in the stall and they'll be ready to warm up and relax. So we just brought Cookie in the stall here. She still has a nice ice layer on her back, which again is showing me she's got some good insulation up there. She immediately checked out to see if there was any food in the bucket, and then she's found her hay. And actually, the direction, the way the wind is blowing, we are going to go ahead and shut those doors because I want her to be able to get warm as quick as possible, kind of build that heat back up. These were the mares that did not have the round belt overnight, so I have a feeling once she gets some hay in her system and she gets out of that wind, that she's going to be just fine. Let me go get her other 2 herd mates. Jasper. We have about 8 farm cats out here at the farm. They've all been accounted for and marked safe. He's a little nervous. He's not quite sure. This might be his first snow because he's just a little over a year old. So I'm sure he's wondering what is going on. Jasper! Hi! It's gonna go away. It's not gonna be like this forever. But they're all great hunters. They also greet the staff and clients as they come to the ranch, so they're a great addition to the farm. So this is Naya. This was the Frisian cross that was shaking. Even her front legs were shaking earlier. So we've got her tucked into the stall here, and she's found some hay, and she seems to be doing much better. Her legs are not shaking, her flank's not tucked up, her butt's definitely not tucked under her. She looks a lot more content to be in here out of the wind. Again, wind plus wet plus cold are not a horse's friend. So as long as we can keep them dry and or keep the wind off of them, they can definitely handle the cold temps. I'm not gonna blanket these guys. They're too wet to blanket now. Once they dry off this afternoon, if I feel like they need blankets, we'll go ahead and put those on. But most of these horses have a lot of winter hair and undercoat that they can self-manage, again, as long as they're not wet and in the wind. So I'm gonna go ahead and close her door. It's supposed to get windier this afternoon, and I really wanna keep that draft off of them until they get dry at least. So we got one more down here. Magic's not a big fan of the stall, and I do hate to close her up, but she was one that was shivering pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and close her up too. And they'll have each other as well as some hay to keep them busy. So that will help keep them entertained and hopefully lower their stress levels. Jasper's trying to still find a dry spot. Come on, Jasper. Some days I wonder why I actually do this. This is one day where I would not call me living the dream. It's extremely cold and windy and wet, and there's no warm, beautiful, fuzzy horses or riding or anything else most people would normally enjoy with horses. But there's still something amazingly beautiful and calm about being out here this morning and really experiencing nature firsthand and appreciating how God has even gifted all of the animals with what they have needed to survive whatever he sends our way. I think it's a great testament as for the 23rd Psalm, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, I shall never be in want. And so just even looking at the crystals on the Minnie's back here just reminds me how the Lord wants to be our covering as well. And if we stay underneath his shelter, he does promise to protect us. So I'm gonna come down here and grab our other two horses, and we're gonna wrap this up soon. We'll have to be back in about 6 hours to do it all over again. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Days like this makes it a little harder, really makes you question about what you're doing and why you're doing it. But it sure helps to have a great team of volunteers, and especially having an amazing husband that's willing to drive and help and scoop and do whatever needs to be done. Could not do this without my whole family, because it does take a family and even a village to make this all happen. So I'm grateful for you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. And for all the horse people out there, I understand what you're going through today. I'll catch you later.